Master Anatomy and Physiology with Indramani Pandey.
Welcome back to my next lecture about connective tissue. In this lecture, we're going to focus on connective tissue proper. But before I dive into today's lecture, what I want to make sure is you understand whatever I told you in last lecture. So that's why I put some question on this slide so you can go through this and think twice what I mean by this. Okay, why it is important to know and why we need to follow these questions. Okay, this I am sure that this question is going to give you additional information about connective tissue. Okay, if you don't know the answer, just let me know. I'll comment on the comment box. I'll let you know the answer. Okay, but these are straightforward question. If you just deeply think whatever I told you in last lecture, you might find these things very easier. Okay, so that's what it is. Now we're gonna talk about connective tissue proper. And the connective tissue proper is divided into two subcategories: loose connective and the dense connective tissue. What is the main purpose? What they consider is a factor to subcategorize these things in two subdivisions: loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. The idea is they do have fiber, and the fibers are loosely scattered or packed together. That's the reason why they just divide into two things. If the fibers are scattered, those are loose connective tissue. If the fibers are um, tightly packed, then these are dense connective tissue. Okay. Now, loose connective tissue, as I mentioned in previous lecture, we're gonna focus on three things. The first thing is called areolar connective tissue. Okay, another we're gonna focus is adipose. Okay, and the last one we're gonna focus is reticular. And don't be confused with this reticular, because we talked about reticular fiber, but we're talking about not tissue. Okay, and why we just put the reticular name, I'm gonna explain you that too in a few moments. Okay, now just let's go to the next slide where we're gonna talk about areolar connective tissue. Okay, so what I want to give you one general information is when you're talking about areolar connective tissue, you must know these four things. You should know what to put for each diagram, what are the things that each individual components of areolar connective tissue. You have to have general idea to label the diagram, and you need to know the function of areolar connective tissue, and you need to know the location of this connective tissue areolar type. Okay, now before I go and just label the diagram, I'm going to give you the description of areolar connective tissue. Okay, and you will give the label to the each of the component of areolar connective tissue, and think about that and follow my description to label the diagram. So areolar connective tissue, the fibers are scattered and these are loosely arranged. That's why it is under the category of loose connective tissue. And this is widely distributed in the body and contains all three fibers. So it has all three fibers. So that's the important thing, and you need to think of that. And the structures and the elements are loosely arranged, as I mentioned you that, and it is present under epithelial tissue. This looks like epithelial tissue to me. Okay, under the epithelial tissue within dermis and found in the layers of surrounding glands and the ducts, and it is also present in lamina propria of mucous membrane, like reproductive and urinary tract, and between muscles and within lungs. So where we can find this? We can find this in the within lungs. And where you can find this? Within dermis. Where else? You can find in lamina propria. Lamina propria. And where you can find this? In the between muscles. between muscles. Okay, and these are loosely arranged, right? Loosely arranged. And what are the functions that can go with this? Okay, one thing is, think about the structures present in areolar connective tissue. They should provide support, right? And strength, and the last one is elasticity. So, and now label the diagram. What do you think this is? This is the, I am thinking about this as a lamina propria. Okay, and what do you think about this thick fiber? This should be collagen fiber. Okay, this thin should be elastic fiber. And what do you think about this small thing like here? These are called fibroblast. Okay, and this, the clear liquid is a called a matrix, where you can find ground substances there, right? So that's the thing we need to understand. Okay, now you can label the diagram, you can describe the general structure here, right? You can give function, and you can have the location. That's it. That's what you need about areolar connective tissue. Okay, now next. Now this is the additional problem you need to understand. Now I'm not going to go through each by each, but this is your job to find out the answer for this. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give some idea that you can think of. What do you think this one? This is yellow, and this is huge and round kind of thing. I'm thinking of this as the adipose tissue. Okay, the answer is right here. You need to think twice and just answer that thing. Okay, and what do you think about this fiber? This is thick, right? So thick means collagen. Collagen fibers are thick. And what do you think about this? I'm going to give you this answer because this is very important. This is melanocyte. This is melanocyte. I'm going to do one more, then other things you can do that, okay, by yourself. So what do you think about this? This is a macrophage. This should be macrophage. Okay, big eaters, right? So that's it. I'm not going to answer all of it. Okay, so find it, answer is here, Google it, whatever you want to do. This is the practice thing you need to understand. Okay, so these are the structural components you can find in areolar connective tissue. Now let's move on to adipose tissue. Okay, so adipose tissue, can you label the diagram? But I'm going to give you description first, and you can label the diagram. So you're going to see, when you see adipose tissue, you're going to see lots of fat cells called adipocytes, and they have a flattened nuclei. They have a flattened nuclei, and you can see only few fibers, or you may not see any fiber. You know, there are very few fibers you're going to see there. And there are two types of adipose tissue. One is called white adipose tissue, and another is called brown adipose tissue. Okay, and what is the difference between white and the brown? Because white adipose tissue contains single large lipid droplet, like only one large lipid droplet, and it has only few mitochondria. Okay, few mitochondria. And the brown has many multiple small droplets, like small multiple droplets, and these are very rich in mitochondria. Okay, so these are the two types of adipose tissue. Now, what is the main function of adipose tissue? It stores fat. It stores fat. Okay, and fat is a form of energy, right? So it protects and insulates many organs, like insulates. What I mean by you can think of like insulation, or where can you find a fat? And you know, insulation means insulation of like heat loss, right? So main function in homeostasis too, because it keeps the body temperature normal, right? So it keeps the body temperature on a normal range, so we're not going to have any problem. So it stores fat, right? And homeostasis or insulation is a very important part here. And it also protects, like in an eyeball, right? Think of that. And around the heart, think about that. Where can you find this thing? As I already mentioned you, right? You can find in the heart. You can find this one in the eyeballs, right? And you can find this in kidney, and in abdominal region, like around, let's say, internal organs. You can find these things too. Okay, internal organ. So what is this picture is? This is the mammary gland, or this is the breast. You can find this thing in a breast too. And what is this small thing? This is a flattened nuclei. This is flattened, and this is like nuclei. This is pushed away due to these big, huge, these fat cells. Okay, and other cellular organelles also pushed away toward the edge of the membrane. Okay, that's the reason. And what is this? This is a fat vacuole, or just this is a fat cell or adipocyte. Okay, so that's the thing we need to understand about adipose tissue. Now let's move on to the okay, so before I move on, people always confuse about what is obesity. Obesity is, what is obesity? Is that a body weight, or is that the weight of the fat you have? The obesity depends on the amount of body fat, but not on the body weight. Okay, so that's the idea we need to understand. That's the thing we need to understand. And another thing people usually encounter are two terms that are lipogenesis, lipogenesis, and lipolysis. Lipolysis. These are the two terms usually people get confused. Lipogenesis is basically you forming fat. Forming fat. If you're forming fat, that is lipogenesis. If you're breaking down that fat and getting is the products is fatty acids, then that is called lipolysis. So this is a breaking of fat. So that's the important thing. Now next one is called reticular fiber. Reticular because it has a network of reticular fibers. Okay, look this thing. What do you think about this? Okay, I already give the answer. So this is a reticular fiber. Reticular fiber, and these are like hugely branched. Okay, and it looks like tree, right? And these small things looks like flower, right? You know, it depends on perception how you see these things, but remember that only only reticular fiber. Other fibers, not visible, maybe like slightly present, but only reticular fibers make sense here. Other fibers I cannot see on figures, so that's the thing. And reticular fibers are usually made up of type 3 collagen, and the main function is it form basically a soft skeleton. It forms soft skeleton, or it forms soft stroma, and what it does is it supports other tissue. It supports other tissues that are present in the is in a matrix. Those cells may be WBCs, right? That may be mast cells, or that may be fibroblast, right? So fibroblast. So these are the things you need to understand. And what do you think about what do you think about this thing? Okay, what do you think about this thing? What is this? This is a mast cell. Okay, this is a mast cell. Okay, and this is a reticular fiber. There is a okay, so that's what you need to understand. And what do you think about this one? I did not label there, but what do you think about this small thing just here? That should be a white blood cell, and it looks like a lymphocyte to me, but I'm not sure. Okay, but it is a white blood cell. It is a white blood cell, and I'm thinking about this as a type of white blood cell, which is a lymphocyte in this particular case. And where you can find this thing, you can find reticular fibers mostly in lymphoid organs. Those lymphoid organs can be lymph nodes, bone marrow, or spleen. By the way, this is a diagram for spleen. Okay, this is the diagram for spleen. So I know that you understand whatever I told you. So I want to recap everything. As you know, areolar connective tissue, loosely arranged, support, strength, elasticity, location within lungs, dermis, lamina propria, between muscles. Okay, so this is a diagram you're gonna see, right? And when you see these things, you're going to see fibers are loosely arranged, different types of cells are there, but which is not in the case of adipose tissue, where you do not have fibers at all. They are fat big lobules. So if you see this type of droplet, then that is adipose tissue. And the reticular, if you see something like branches with like kind of flowers and like kind of tree, then you're thinking about the reticular type of thing. And that's the idea how you recognize these three types of loose connective tissue. Okay, and in next lecture what I'm going to focus is dense connective tissue. And I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I'm going to see you in next lecture with the dense connective tissue. Have a good day. Thank you for watching. See you. Bye bye.
Please subscribe to see more videos regarding anatomy and physiology.